I'm not.
Does ready mean like is the jingle being played right now, or are we live?
No, he said we're done. We're live. We're late. We're live.
All right.
Yep.
Well,
All right. We're late, but we're live.
I even forgot the beer.
Yeah. Sorry for the late start, everyone. Just a few minutes late.
Hey guys. Hello everyone. Can you hear me? Am I talking to my microphone?
You're a bit too close. It's kind of loud.
It's a little early in the day, but I'm skipping the beer.
Sorry, we're late, everyone. Today. Somebody was taking a siesta, but we're not going to say it.
Hello.
Do you guys take afternoon naps?
I don't. Do you have time to?
You have no kids, right? You have no kids, right?
I have to be really, really tired in order to take an afternoon nap.
Yeah.
Usually after decent beers, right? Or really drunk, huh?
You know what? There was a time that after the show I would take a nap because I would be pretty buzzed. Because like usually around this time is my lunchtime, and I skip it during the show, so I don't eat till after. And then by that time I'm pretty buzzed and just like, damn, I need to take a nap.
But wait a minute, wouldn't too much alcohol like keep you from napping, really, or is it? Are you drinking so much that you're passing out after the show?
It's not that I mean, I only have like 2 or 3 beers during the show. I guess to me that's not that much.
What's the volume of them?
Like for instance, this one is
percentage.
This is 7%.
Oh, okay.
And that's generally around where they are when I drink the beers that I drink, like between 5 and 7.
0%.
0. All right. Are you still above How's the
You're
dry
sober. So
2021 still
a
going?
month and
That non-alcoholic beer, Matt?
yeah, this is supposed to
Sure.
be a really good one. I think this is supposed to be one of the best isotonic drinks you can buy. Apparently, that's what I've been told. That they give it to the German football team after they've been playing.
Wow.
So, yeah, that's good.
And what prompted the detox?
Well, I think after last year and just seeing as this is a continual thing that we're all going through, I just decided that I want to be more focused and stay healthy. It's a big birthday coming up for me, Ali, this year. So
Yeah, me too.
yeah,
Yeah.
Is it a milestone number?
yeah. So
I guess
You don't have to say.
if we're still alive and kicking, yeah, it's a milestone.
yeah. So, but no, I mean, last year I think we were all like, everyone was at home, so we were, we were just relaxed and kind of getting used to being at home, and
Yeah.
so now is kind of the time to sort of be a bit more sensible, I guess.
Is this something you're going to continue throughout the year, or just it's like a dry February kind of thing?
No, I mean, I did it in mid 2013. I stopped drinking. I stopped everything, smoking everything, and so I did that for a year and a half, and yeah, that went pretty well. And I think I know that I can do it, and I love drinking, but I mean, I want to be healthy. I mean, one of my good friends, this DJ Phil Usher, passed away a week ago, and he was 55, and so
That always seems to put things in a perspective, doesn't it?
Yeah, he was 55.
Sorry to hear that, man.
Yeah, so and he was a good friend and a great DJ and a real mentor to me, and so
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I think these are pretty good. I mean, the alcohol-free beers are pretty good. So,
But do you really want to go through these times totally unbuzzed?
I mean, Chris, I mean, for
Like
me,
you want to be more aware of what's going on out there right now?
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? I think last year, I was so sedated by just drinking so much every day, and I get such a buzz from being in the studio. To be honest, being creative and being busy and being alert and having all these things to do. I mean, that's to me better than, I don't want to sound like a cliche. That's better than waking up with a fucking hangover.
Yeah,
True.
I woke up with a hangover today.
You look like that too.
Wait, you woke up with a hangover, but you baked some sourdough bread?
Yeah, because every bread making.
He's a high functioning alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm a functioning alcoholic. Like, no, I was cooking with a friend last night, and we drank a lot of wine, and then somebody there had bourbon. They were drinking bourbon, and I was very curious about bourbon. It's like a bourbon called Pappy's, apparently one of the best bourbons out there. And they had like a beautiful glass with like a giant ice cube in it and a little bit of bourbon at the bottom and sipping it. And it just looked so elegant, and it tasted amazing. So I just kept, it's like a new discovery for me, bourbon last night. I kept drinking. And then, maybe I had like 4 glasses, and I looked at the bottle to see how much alcohol, what the alcohol percentage is. And it was like 48% alcohol. I'm like, wow. Jesus. Yeah. So then, the wine earlier and the bourbon later, it all kind of collided.
Is that why you're having the burger today? Is it like
yeah. Today was today I had to, I got up early to bake a loaf of bread just because, it gives me something to do. It keeps me.
Is it therapeutic?
It's extremely therapeutic. Yeah. Because it gives you a reason, like everything works to a specific timeline, and you got to take great care in the technique and like measuring the ingredients and all this stuff. And it just gives you something to look forward to the next day, and a reason to wake up early, no matter, what's going on or what you've done the night before. And if you're like in a shitty mood or stressed out or whatever, it kind of pulls you out of that. So I managed, throughout this whole ordeal, as we've talked about on the show, I managed to find, this inner calm, with some of this stuff that I took an interest in. And I just hope everybody, you know, you guys, I'm sure you have your thing.
We have children, Ali.
That too, yeah. Chris, you got your kids there now, right?
I have, yeah. This is why I have this odd place. It's funny because I realized my internet connection in the kitchen is too far away from the router, so I had to just quickly move into wherever I'm sitting here, where my ski stuff is hanging, and the computer is below. But now I look at Matt, and he's kind of like his camera is up there, so it kind of feels like I'm looking down to you, Matt. Like I don't know, how does it look in the internet? Is he below me? Like, hey, Matt.
I think for everybody, it's a different orientation. For
on my window, you're on the bottom and Matt's on the top. Yeah. So Matt's looking down. Well, yeah.
Matt, you look like you sit in a sauna. Where are you?
Yeah. I'm just in my daughter's bedroom, but I put this nice. I actually made this for the studio. Well, I had this made. It's kind of like a screen, but yeah, I couldn't. It's so cold outside that I didn't want to go to my actual studio to sit there. So yeah, I'm at home again.
What's the vibe at Riverside these days? The studios, who's still there? Is Thomas and Tassilo still there?
Yeah, the Pampot guys are there. Actually, it's been quite busy last few weeks. But of course, they can't do any events. They can't use the lab, the big space. Mm-hmm. So I think they're suffering, but they're trying to do other things. They've recently built a green room. And so they're kind of like moving with the times, you know, with this whole streaming thing. So, but yeah, I mean, it's full there. So, but a lot of people, I think Beck, this young girl, this techno producer, she literally just got back from the UK. So I'm not sure how she got back, but yeah. So there was still like these little Christmas bags on a lot of the doors where I guess people were still away. But
do you find it creatively inspiring to be in a building with so many other artists who you all kind of share studio spaces with? Like, is someone like walking by your studio hearing something cool and knocking on the door and you letting them in and turns into like a collaboration? Or
it's not that kind of, I think everyone keeps themselves to themselves, but I'm not one. I mean, I've been in those environments, you know, where everyone's hanging out and people just don't get any work done. So but no, it's good. I mean, they have like a DJ room, you know, that's all powered by Pioneers. So now I don't really need a setup at home. And for me, yeah, no, it's great. I mean, I'm getting so much more done, and I'm also learning so much as well by being in this environment. And you know, they can hook me up with different companies which maybe I couldn't reach out to before. So that's helping, and also just getting away. I always used to think it would be just great to just have the studio at home. You know, I could just get up and, you know, and just make music. But actually now it's forcing me to be a bit more disciplined with the way that I work, you know. So, yeah.
We used to have pinball machines in the studio. Mo, you remember that, right?
I remember that. Indiana Jones.
Wow.
Yeah, and Adam's Family. And there were months where we literally were only playing pinball.
Yeah, I used to have a table tennis table here. And I think when my friend Tom Gandy was here, that's all we would do, just play table tennis.
At least there was some sort of exercise. But Ali, I see Kyle is still with you, so behind you.
Got some. I should give a shout out to Pioneer. They sent us some CDJ 3000s and a V10.
Nice.
And Kyle is just getting acclimated to that whole setup.
So I assume last weekend went well if he's still with you.
Yeah. Well, we had quite a few, you know, runs with the streams that we did in Barcelona, and like I said last week, Kyle's first show with me was Caprices Festival, and it was great, and yeah, he still seems to be into it.
We're killing it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, we're late, I know, but I really can't wait to get our guests on, guys. Shall we?
Bring them in.
Yeah,
bring them in.
Come on in, Chuck and Jason. There they are.
Yo.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, sir.
There he is.
Can I start drinking beer now?
Yes, you can.
Drink it up.
You're not drinking already?
Well, I thought there was like a bell you rang or something. It's my first show, you know?
That's not a bad idea, actually. Maybe ringing a bell for shots or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Last orders.
How are you guys?
Good.
Fair.
It looks like Chuck's got a couple 40s back there.
Actually, deuces.
No, okay, my bad.
Chuck, Jason, so nice to see you guys.
I think the last time I talked to you guys, it was like in March or April last year when the world went dark, everything got weird, and then, everybody was reaching out to one another and trying to stay connected somehow. And we had like a nice Zoom chat.
Yeah,
with you and the gang.
You and Chris both rated our company Zoom calls.
Ah, that's right.
When we were first locked down.
Yeah.
We showed you the way.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
What are you drinking?
Cheers. This is. I want to go full classic. I'm doing from my Belgian
Delirium.
Yeah.
I just ordered some of that myself.
Oh yeah, cheers! I love that beer.
Mo, be careful with talking to the mic.
Sorry.
Oh,
Colt 45 classic.
Yeah.
So who's got more gear, Chuck or Mo? Let's see.
Chuck for sure.
I don't know, man.
Let's arm wrestle, man.
Nah, I don't know about that either.
Chuck, I didn't know you made music. Maybe I should know this, but I didn't know.
Not well. I probably never told you or anything. But yeah, I dabble.
Now, what artist name do you go under or have you released music?
I just do my own name.
Oh, okay.
The last thing we did was for My Baby Records, which is kind of like the TV lounge label kind of vibe. The studios there and all that stuff. And anyways, we worked on some stuff with Delano Smith, and I did a remix with my buddy Keith Kemp, and it did good. It's a vinyl only label, so it's good.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think Delano, for me, I think is one of the most underrated producers out there. His stuff is just incredible.
Yeah, Delano's the man.
Yeah.
He's an amazing DJ, amazing producer. He's really nice. So,
What's up with getting the old D Records catalog digitally?
oh man.
Want to come help us digitize it?
Send me the records. I'll do it.
Okay.
Chuck
that sounds good.
Chuck hooked me up with a stack last time. It was very nice of you, man. Thank you for that.
Yeah, man.
So, guys, when did you two meet? Take us back to those early 90s.
No,
Right?
it was like what 2000-ish, right? 2001, between 2000 2001. We
What?
met.
Yeah, Chuck.
Wait a minute.
Chuck started out as a Paxhau stalker. He was coming around a lot. It was from those days. Yeah.
What year is that, Chris? What year is that?
That's a famous.
That's from the first house.
That's the first house. I was in the basement there. It was the Paxhau Hotel.
What do you guys remember from that night?
I was picked up by Jason at the airport, and I was like, "Can you take me to the hotel?" And he's like, "Yeah, we'll just pass by my house first." And I was like, "I'm in the Paxhau Hotel." And he's like, "Yeah, we'll pass by my house first." And then we passed by the house, which was this house here. And I was sitting in the middle there, smoking a doobie with looking around, and it was probably not that night, but it was a different night. And at some point, it was like, "You want to go to the hotel?" I'm like, "Yeah." And then he just took me downstairs, and then I realized Paxhau was the company name. And I was sleeping in the basement, and I was sleeping in the basement.
We had tight budgets.
Chris, was that your first time in Detroit?
I do believe that was my very first time in Detroit, and I played at Motor. Did I?
Yeah.
St. Andrews Hall?
Yeah.
St. Andrews Hall was after that with Jochem and other gigs, but I think that was something else. And I stayed for 4 or 5 days, and since then we kind of can't avoid each other. We're trying, but we can't.
Chris, what were your tempos back then? How fast were you playing? Do you remember?
I don't know. You guys remember?
Yeah,
That was the Shrons.
like
Probably 135, 140 around.
It was like 134, 135.
That's not too bad.
Was
I thought
that
it was a little slower.
pre-Shrons?
That's respectable.
It was post-trans.
You guys want to hear the rest of the Chuck story, or
Yeah.
Let's do it, Jay.
really?
Oh, sorry, Jason. Did I interrupt you?
Excited. You're so excited. You even spelled Paxhau wrong on the stream, so I know you're really excited. You're typing so fast. But
Oh, that's right.
It's a tough one to spell.
so back, when we first met Chuck, he was coming to a lot of parties. He was very friendly, very aggressive, really wanted to get involved. We had a very small circle, and we just, didn't really trust that many people that we didn't, know that well. And but he was relentless in his interest in working with us. And one time it got so heated that I looked at him and I said, Chuck, I don't mean this to be the wrong way, but you call me and text me more than my girlfriend does, and it's just getting a little weird. And his response was, oh, okay, sorry about that. And I go home that night and the fax machine rings, and he sends a handwritten fax that says, hey guys, didn't want to call or text, just seeing what you're doing, blah blah blah. And it was one of the few times I can remember just laughing out loud, like reading this fax come through, and then the next thing you know, the rest is history. But it was a very funny turning point in our friendship.
Chuck, it sounds like you knew what you were doing there. It was very calculated, right?
I just wanted to hang out and have some fun.
Resilience
seemed to work out pretty well, right?
Yeah, I guess so. Like Jason asked me to start working for Paxhau at 2001 festival, and we were near the Plus 8D Records booth, and he asked me if I could start taking pictures and doing some random tasks and shit, and that was my first day on the job.
He was good. All the first pictures on Paxhau.com are all Chuck Flass.
But can you tell us a little bit about Paxhau? What was the idea, and when did you start that?
What does the name mean? And who came up with the name, first of all?
That's a pretty heavy question right out of the gate. So, Paxhau actually wasn't born until about 5 years after we were working. And originally, in the early 90s, we were doing underground parties in Detroit, which ultimately, collapsed under Law and Order. And there was a bit of a hiatus. And Jason Clark and I actually spent some time in the woods in New England. And that's where a lot of studying and soul searching and ideas and clarity was kind of established. And out of a lot of things that we looked at, Mayans were very, very inspirational to us just because they were the youngest advanced species. And it's translated from a Mayan text. It means the power of music in the final cycle of time. And we thought if there was the brand of all brands, that's about the extent of what we could imagine the meaning to be. So that's where the original name came from. And that was first used in public September 1st, 98. And that's when we registered the domain. And that's from there is where we celebrate our anniversary.
Wow. Now your friendship with Richie Houghton goes back quite a ways. Were you and Rich putting on early events in Windsor and Detroit around that time?
The Detroit ones. I mean, Rich was a huge inspiration to me. His style of playing and that atmosphere was really what kind of activated me and not just captured my interest, but really helped my focus and to decide, what I wanted to follow, what I wanted to do, and the kind of sound that was I felt was the most interesting. And we started working on parties together. That year, 93, 94, and 95. Those were the years that we were doing underground parties in Detroit together.
Well, tell us a little bit about that. Like, that sounds pretty insane to do parties at that time.
Did you know at the time the impact that the music and artists of Detroit was having, like, on a global scale? Like, was there a lot of attention on what you were doing in Detroit coming from the outside, coming from Europe especially?
I mean, I personally was really kind of focused on what kind of impact it was having on my brain. and I didn't know anything about the rest of the world. I was not a world traveler. In fact, I met Chris and Ali on the same trip, my very first trip with Rich, which wasn't until 2000. And that was the very first time that I sort of grasp what was happening globally. So up until then, I was really, a local boy, so to speak.
And if you
I did a
want, you
little
can.
New York, but that's it.
If you want, you can still answer my question too, only if it's okay with you.
What was your question again, Chris?
How it was like back in those days to run parties in the beginning of the 90s, where everything was essentially dominated by other people. Well, internationally speaking, like
Yeah, I mean, Detroit then was a ghost town. I mean, it was totally empty. So our parties weren't really in the outskirts at all. A lot of them were right downtown on main streets that are now, part of a bustling city. So, there was a lot of risk, and it at the same time, looking back, it was pretty safe. Like we didn't have, trouble with neighbors at all because there weren't any. And the police really couldn't figure out what the hell we were doing. So there was no reason to feel aggro about it. And we were able to operate for years with a really friendly relationship with anybody around us that could have interrupted us. And I think it was just so wild and nuts that they got more of a kick of standing there and watching everybody dance than thinking anything was wrong. And if anything was to elevate to where we had to answer some serious questions, we just said we were shooting a music video, and it worked.
We use that one all the time too.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they're like, "Oh yeah, I don't want to get the video. You guys, be safe."
Do we still know any of the DJs you had playing there back then?
Yeah, of course. I mean, Rob Noyes, which is Rob Hood now. I mean, Jeff Mills, obviously, Rich and the whole techno crew, D Win, which was a huge house DJ. And I don't see much from him anymore, but he was on fire back then, and it was a very interesting time because house and techno were almost always in the same party. And the evening would start with house and get really, really deep. And then there'd be, a change that would occur, in the 2-3 o'clock range. And that's what kind of made the journey, it was a special time indeed.
You mentioned that towards the end of the 90s, the warehouse parties or the illegal parties kind of came to a close under law and order. Was that just because of how privy the law enforcement in Detroit got to it, or did it have anything to do with like the anti-rave laws that were being passed and they were just cracking down on people?
The anti-rave laws never really made it to Detroit. What was Detroit's undoing was, people that wanted to wear that promoter ring, people coming from sort of outside the circle, outside the city that got, really interested in throwing a party. So they did it differently. And then they, in one case, a guy, said he was going to show Detroit a little bit of New York and invited a photographer in, which we had a strict, no photo policy. And then the photographer turned out to be an undercover photographer for the Free Press or the news. And it was a front page of the paper, which we still have in the office. And ever since that first article came out, they just start getting clipped.
Because we had a lot of those Fox undercover things going on in LA as well.
Yeah, it sucked. It got pretty dark there for a minute for sure. But but that was mostly our undoing. It was just a lot of other people wanting to be promoters and get in on it, and then ultimately just unraveled.
Jason, was it important for you guys in those early years to showcase like homegrown talent from Detroit, or were you booking artists from all over the U.S., from New York, Chicago, and?
There was a little bit. There's usually like one guest per party, and but it was almost all homegrown because that's when everybody was really kind of coming online. I mean, a lot of the Detroit guys were going overseas and getting inspired, and then coming back and wanting to play new records that they got over there. But it was really kind of onesie twosie, special guests, and then when Paxhau started doing regular parties, it was always one guest from out of town and everybody else was local.
And were you a fan of the music, or you were a fan of like the reasons why you got into organizing events? Were you into the culture, into the challenge of putting on an event? Obviously, you have to like the music a little bit, but was that your primary driver for turning this hobby into kind of the business that you guys have turned it into today?
Yeah, I made all my decisions on the dance floor. I mean, it was all music. Everything that inspired me was music, and then it sort of fanned out from there. I met most of the people much later than I started to understand the music, and then once the people started kind of forming that family, so to speak, and allowed me to be a part of it. I was approached by one person that I knew from a friend, and he just said, "Hey, I got a lead on a space and I want to do a party, and I'd like to try doing it with you." And I was just like, "Okay, that sounds good." And I like to organize that. I like putting things together, and we just kind of put this show together, and it worked. And once I did one, I knew that was all I wanted to do.
And Chuck, what was your beginnings like over in Detroit?
Well, I don't know. I was kind of like a hippie kid out of high school. So I was in the Grateful Dead and shit like that,
That
But
explains the weed.
no, well, yeah, it comes along. Anyways, we just started going to parties, like randomly. There was a building where all these guys hung out at, Jason and his crew and everyone. I didn't know those guys back then. But it was the 1217 building in Detroit, and they all lived there. Anyways, some of my friends from high school, they rented out one of the spaces in there. It was around 95, 96. I would say about 95. And we would go there, and late night we would hear some bass from the basement. We were like, what the fuck is that? I've never been to anything techno before pre 1995, so we would go down there. They'd just say, "Hey, if you say that you're with the people who live here," I think they lived in 2 North or something like that, or I don't remember which one it was, but if you said you knew the people that lived there, you would get in for free. So I went in there, and it was all dark and stuff going on and techno, and I was like, holy shit, this is cool. So we started getting into going down there every so often whenever I would visit my friends downtown, because I grew up in Livonia, and then I had some other friends who were throwing parties, and I went to one party that my buddy Craig Gonzalez and a couple other people put together, and that was one of my first real parties. I don't remember the name of it, but I think it was called Mindfuck or something weird like that. I don't know.
It's a good name.
Yeah, I think Mark Flash played it or something like that, because we got this mixtape from him, and I'm still looking for this mixtape because mine got stolen out of my car like a long time ago. Anyways, and that mixtape was a really kick-ass mixtape. It had all these like Scarface samples in it, and all this crazy acid and all this stuff, and it was sweet. So anyways, we'd rock that. We would go to parties like randomly, and so I guess my first experience with electronic music would be at down at 1217, and then first real party was at the Waterman space, which was the party that I was just talking about. And yeah, and then from there it just kind of went on, because my friends all either they were throwing like random parties, or we had friends that were DJs. I slowly discovered Richie Houghton, and Plastic Man stuff, and then the Jeff Mills Liquid Room CD, was a big one for me back then. And then the Plastic Man Mix Mag Mix was a big one for me, So we were getting into that, you were in high school, we would listen to this music and, party and whatever we would do when we were young. And
Were you aware of the music or the significance of Detroit techno before you were into the music?
I was not. I absolutely was not aware of it. I didn't know who anyone really was, so I just slowly learned about it, from going to parties, random shit all over the place, going to Motor, going to the Packard, going to wherever, after hours, this, that, the other. I mean, Detroit was just like, you just go party, on the weekends. And it was either punk rock music or techno. you know.
That's a
And
perfect combo.
yeah, it's kind of weird. So, you know, that was what we did, you know. So then slowly, you know, we would go to random shit, and it's weird because when Rich opened up 13 Below in Canada, which was it was a bar that he had there. Jason and Sam and those guys would like have their camcorder or whatever, and randomly after we all met and everything, we discovered watching these old tapes that I would be in the same room as all of them at the same time, but we didn't know each other at all.
Wow.
And at that time, I still didn't know Rich. You know, I met Rich through Jason and the guys, you know. So it was just weird. We were always kind of in the same place at the same time, post a certain date, and then we just randomly clicked.
Connected.
I faxed Jason.
Chuck was very sneaky back.
Thanks.
Yeah, I faxed Jason, and you know, look what it got me. You know,
Look at all
When you came
this.
on board,
look at all
when you
this.
came on-
Where are the
when you
videos?
came on board, what was the first event that you guys did together?
Oh
Do you
shit.
remember?
Well, we did like
Well, no, it was Paxhau 4 because
well, yeah, Paxhau.
we were streaming from Motor, and when Motor picked up the slack after the underground, you know, was compromised in Detroit, and Motor started doing 1, 2, sometimes 3 shows a week, and we wired Motor for webcasting and archiving, and then we started to become co-promoters of all the techno there. And when Motor closed, the closing night after party was Paxhau 4, which was when we went back in and started doing our own parties again. So that would have been the first one because we were.
Yeah, but that was Sammy D and Zip
Mhm.
at the Works.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That was a good one.
that was a killer weekend because Rich had a big party that weekend too,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, we really tore it up that weekend.
Yeah,
And
we
you
were-
said you guys were streaming or webcasting?
Yeah,
Uh,
we started streaming in '98, and we started archiving in '99. If you go to the Paxhau archives, there's like 1,000 DJ sets there before. You know, I hate to say before all this other stuff, but you know, right when streaming technology was introduced, that's when we were in our hiatus. So that was kind of our thing. And once we were, you know, at the Paxhau Hotel, we would do every Sunday live in the basement. And then when Motor started booking so much techno, that gave us another huge opportunity where it was a win-win. The only downside was back then there was a lot of cable. It was really pre-Wi-Fi, and the crawl space underneath Motor is a place no man should go.
Now,
I'm looking at
fast forward-
I'm looking at your archives now. Are the videos
They're still
also
available then?
Yeah, most of them are on SoundCloud and some other stuff. We're getting ready to do a big sort of relaunch. The main issue then is everybody wanted us to promote everything all the time. You know, now things get taken down, copyright. Some DJs think that that's not their style anymore, so they don't want old sets up. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons that we aren't a little louder with it, but we're gonna try to release a lot more of that old stuff this year. You know,
Mo,
now-
can you still find my set in there?
oh yeah, I
I'm
think we
looking
got
for
2
it.
your sets in there,
Is it Jason? Is it video or just audio?
just audio.
These
Yeah.
just audio.
Yeah, we just
Okay.
kind of started doing the video this year, really. We were never really into video, but
And it was too dark for video, right?
I mean, video back then probably would have looked terrible. Like
it
streaming
did look terrible. I don't even think there was webcams.
100
I'm-
kilobytes.
I'm interested to see some of these videos.
What about the camcorder?
basement, a
footage
red light, and the
Chuck was
feeling.
talking about.
We got the camcorder footage. Some of it is locked and buried. You know?
Yeah, we started playing some of it back last year, and the fact that it was being played out loud in front of some of our younger staff, we decided just some things to just stay in the safe.
All right.
Wow.
So, like, now, you know, most people can discover kind of the history of what led to the Movement Festival as it exists today. It changed, you know, hands, creative hands a few times over the years. You guys are the new custodians. You've been the custodians of Movement Festival since 2006. You took ownership, right? That was the
Correct.
first year. You guys kind of took ownership of it as it existed then, and you kind of made it into this global phenomenon that everyone feels compelled to come to every year.
I think
what was that like?
Keep in mind, I mean, in 2000, press was a lot lighter than it is now. I mean, the internet was just kind of getting cranked up. It was very Flintstone-y, and this thing was a global phenomenon, right out of the gate. I mean, the very first year, the Detroit Electronic Music Festival was an incredible, life-changing event, and that's really what started the whole thing. The turnovers, between directors, had a lot to do with the original structure, which was designed to be kind of a fundraiser for the city of Detroit. I mean, nobody was expecting it to turn into what it did right away because there wasn't really a blueprint yet. I think that Ultra in Miami is the only other event that's been running concurrently since 2000. And so as the years kind of progressed, it went to a few artists, and the artists realized that producing an event is a lot different than producing a record. And we were asked to produce a stage in 2005 for Kevin. And after that year is when, he kind of threw in the towel and was like, I got to focus on being an artist. And that's when we fell into natural communications with the city and petitioned the city to start treating it like an actual event and take over management, which came with all the risk and responsibility. So it took a little while to negotiate, but I think by then they had a few examples of what didn't work. And then we were looking at some other examples nationally and internationally that did work. So at that point, there was some examples that we could use and share. And they gave us a shot, and fortunately in 2006, it was a success. And that's what earned us our ongoing opportunities.
And how do you you guys went from producing club events, or I would say small scale events, into taking over this multi-stage global kind of event. What were some of for people that don't understand, including maybe us to a certain degree, what does it take to put on a festival of that size? What are the hurdles and how, obviously you've been affected by this shutdown, like everyone else. What kind of effect has it had on not just the whole company, but the city of Detroit,
Well, there's kind of two different questions there. The first one was, how do you go from small parties to big parties? And, I kind of compare it to, we understand the molecule and you just have to build on that. So, I mean, we were already producing all the large after parties for the weekend. Chris was a big part of our Yale parties, which are, legendary and without question, some of the best parties that we ever did, musically. And,
changed my life.
Yeah. I mean, those, I'll tell you.
Why were they so good, these parties? Besides Chris's DJing.
And I still have the T-shirt.
Oh no, Chris was just there. He just helped me get all the other DJs.
Okay.
But it was everything from just the flyer, the way it looked. It was so inviting to the event. The whole experience of just being.
Yeah, those are good parties. So we just hunkered down and used our ideals and used our values and just kind of built on it. We had a really strong team and we knew what made our teammates strong. So we looked for those attributes in other people, and we you had to trust a little. We had to stay close to the vest a lot, because trust was such a big thing then, because now we had to be not just at our shows, which were sometimes 2 or 3 a night, but also on the festival site, which was 36 hours of live programming, and the exposure and being on city property, et cetera, et cetera. But I think it was there's some saying about, if you're an early 90s rave promoter, you can produce almost anything, because those events were so challenging. As soon as you get some structure and actual, permissions and policies and things like that, you're like, oh, this is all right. I can do this. So, I mean, that's kind of the short answer of how do you switch. It's just, you stay awake a lot longer. And then the second question is, how has this affected? I mean, it's just, for our live stuff, like everybody else, it just, press the pause button. I mean, it was just immediate. I mean, we kind of felt it creeping for a couple of weeks. And then one day it was just boom. And
How long did it take you to realize, damn, we cannot put on Movement Festival this year? Because I remember we were still like it was in limbo.
information was so limited then because nobody
And
knew
for,
anything.
for our viewers out there, the Movement Festival is usually happening over what's the
Memorial Day
weekend called? Memorial Day weekend, end of May, right?
May,
Yeah.
And it's usually the first festival for the DJ circuit where you really have to deal with the heat as well, because somehow usually it's pretty hot over there.
So, you hope you deal with the heat. I mean,
You
in
hope you do.
2003 there was a hailstorm.
Oh,
I
really?
remember that.
Yeah, that sucked.
Well, but just for context,
I'm switching to my ESB.
ESB, nice.
Yeah, now this isn't my
That's what I
favorite
got.
ESB, but it was the only one I could find because my favorite
Wow.
does not exist anymore.
I'm not gonna lie, man. I've only taken like a few sips and I'm already feeling this Colt 45 here.
I'm surprised you're not drinking Cobra, man.
I'm like a little shaky.
that's all good, Chuck. I'll try to keep up.
Chuck, like, what's harder for you guys? Is it dealing with the logistics of putting on Movement, or is it dealing with like artists and their booking agents?
Well, I mean, booking a DJ is not the funnest thing in the world sometimes, you know what I mean? So it all depends. But in all realisticness, before 2006, I never booked a DJ before. Like all these guys like Jason, Sam, and Jason, they all picked their job before me. And I was
I should give you a little background there. Before,
Yeah, can we hear a little bit about the whole crew?
Yeah, there was. First of all, you got to keep in mind when we were doing parties, there were no agents.
Oh yeah, well there's that.
So Sam and I worked together, and we would communicate with artists. But the second, we met an agent, we knew right away that we needed someone special for this job.
The guy with the facts.
Fortunately, we had a photographer whose personality we felt fit perfectly for agents, and that was the first year we really dealt with that, and it all kind of fell into place naturally.
Yeah.
Can you explain a little bit about the crew? Who's Sam? Who's the other Jason? What are their functions?
Sure. So I still have the pleasure of working with my two best friends, Jason Clark and Sam Fotis from the early 90s. We all worked together in Detroit. We all met in Detroit. Sam's a Detroit native. Jason Clark's from Ohio, used to drive to Detroit for our parties. And we basically just bonded, in the early 90s, Detroit underground scene and have been connected ever since. It's not that complicated. We've been close the whole run. And so we reference each other a lot just because we've worked together consistently for,
long time.
And has it gotten easier over the years for you to do Movement? Like what has changed?
Well, we have a different, political arena every year. We've had, 4 mayors, about 30 different city council members. We've got outdoor weather that is consistently an issue. Sam's team discovered a hole in the plaza one year, which threatened to basically prevent us from loading in. I mean, every time you think it's getting easier, one of these things, happens that is way beyond, your control and way beyond training. And if it's a personality issue, obviously you gotta, try to figure out, how to create a symbiotic relationship. But if it's a nature thing like weather or structure, that's a whole other thing. And when we discovered the sinkhole on the property, nobody had ever experienced anything like that in the city. So as soon as it went out in an email, it was like, genie's out the bottle, liabilities everywhere. So they bring in structural engineers, and the first things these guys say is they need a couple of months. And we were 2 weeks away from load in. So you can imagine the tense there. But everybody, like I said earlier, just got to stay awake longer. Everybody just started, had to kind of work around the clock. And the city of Detroit has been a really great partner of ours. I mean, I gotta believe maybe it's unique and maybe it's special, but most of the people that we work with, in the city are people that we can call and talk to and have, plain conversations with. And, we've worked together a long time to help build this event. And, it's great for the city overall. It's great for our music culture. So it's a win-win, and we've just been, honorable business people.
Mm.
I was going to say, it must be very beneficial for the city of Detroit, too. I mean, the amount of tourism that the festival brings in as well into the city must be great for them as well. So I'm sure that they're very eager to work with you as a partner.
Well, it's depending on who you talk to, for the most part, you're right. Some people want to, kind of huddle around and keep Detroit small and keep Detroit local. And there's a lot of different mentalities and a lot of generations that have been part of the city and the business community and the government. But it is really the only tourism event in the city. I mean, almost everything draws regionally, and the auto show, drew a lot of international press. But as far as people like vacationing in Detroit, it's the only weekend I know.
Because earlier, Ollie said, how did it affect the city of Detroit? But I mean, just for context, I mean, for European followers who are maybe not as familiar with the festival, movement is huge for the United States, period. I mean, it is one of the only main techno festivals we have where almost everybody in the States seem to travel to Detroit for this thing once a year. It's like a huge family reunion. So I'm sure it had a dramatic effect on the city not being able to happen this year, but it can't be understated how much of an effect it's had on the entire North American kind of techno culture to have not had this festival.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was a pretty sad weekend in May. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was sad. We had a really successful online show. We had a lot of positive energy around what we're trying to do, and we got a great fan base and a great artist base. But it was a bummer, and I don't know if anybody was paying attention to Detroit weather that weekend, but it was the only year in history that was literally 75 and sunny every single day. I mean, it was perfect. And that made it feel a lot worse. But, at that point, Detroit got hit really hard with the pandemic. So, even though events are, it's sad that events are not happening and it affects the city in those ways, there were other things that were really top of mind, like we were about to shift our production, focus towards building, testing centers and things like this. I mean, Detroit was slammed and it was scary. And many people were afraid to go out of their houses and stuff. So I don't think that, there was a whole lot of, top of mind for city government at that point to be bummed about events as much as they were trying to keep citizens safe. And that in May, it was still, very, very scary. And then, obviously summer it loosened up, and then, we all watched. Right?
How is it now? What's the situation? How's it in Detroit with COVID? And
well, it's very similar to California. We just opened up our restaurants at 25% this week, February 1, and people are starting to kind of, get in there. If 6 months ago, people would look at each other and say, like, do you even know anybody who got sick? Now, everybody knows somebody who's been sick. That's what I think is the really big difference between the first onset and this last onset was everyone knows somebody now that's gotten sick. And so I think it's gotten a little more real to people, but because of the symptoms and the illnesses of those people that most people know, people are really anxious to kind of get back to some activity because, they're looking at it now like, okay, this isn't a shock anymore. It's not 2 weeks old anymore. Maybe this is something that, is with us for a while. What can we do to start to operate safely so that we can bring some of these industries back online?
Because I guess with club culture in general, music culture, or the scene in Detroit, I guess it was tough anyway, pre-pandemic, to have a club or to support yourself as an artist. So I guess maybe a lot of these people, a lot of young guys or girls who are involved in music in Detroit might be looking at doing something else, I guess, because there's no support. You don't have support like in Europe with grants, artist grants, and all these kinds of things. There's no help, right? For
Well, I mean, the only help that we see coming now is the Save Our Stages Act, which is really
Right.
geared towards venues and promoters. As far as artists go, I mean, you've got a spectrum of personalities there, and you know, all we can do is what we can do. And you know, we found a great partnership, and you know, with our broadcast partner Twitch, which allowed us a 6-month budget campaign where we were able to hire DJs and you know, performers and pay them. So you know, that's what we can do. You know, as far as what, you know, other people are figuring out and doing stuff, I mean, it sucks. I mean, without being able to perform live and do any sort of ticketed event, I mean, yeah, it sucks.
Jason and Chuck, based on your ties to the city of Detroit, you know, the people on the city council, politicians there, you know, do you have any insight into a way forward, a way out of this situation this year, where you can put on a safe event while people are getting vaccinated globally?
Yeah, I will tell you something that, you know, I probably, you know, it's probably a little early to talk about this, but you know, it's just a feeling, you know, in talking to our partners and realizing how focused they still are on saving lives, and now, you know, testing center priorities are turning into, you know, vaccination center priorities. That's really where 100% of their focus is, and as it should be.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, as events, you know, learn more. You know, we have access to information. Obviously, we have great safety and emergency teams. A lot of science is available to a lot of people now. I personally have a hunch that it's going to be very much up to the event industry to create, you know, the safety protocols and present them to the cities. Yeah, and I agree. And, you know what I mean? And I think that there's probably going to be a lot of back and forth when it comes to, you know, liabilities and making sure that you have a lot of people checking off on it. But I don't think that people in government are going to be sitting there designing these event structures as well as the, you know, the event industry. So, you know, we talk about that a lot, you know, when we know that we're able at this capacity and this capacity and this capacity. And, you know, as you may know, we produce other events as well in the city, other music genres for some good partners and clients. And some of them are a little easier, you know, where there's a seated audience, or there's a layout where you can give people sort of these pods. And we've all seen the drive-in models. But when you're talking about dancing, I mean, very specifically dancing, you know, together, that's we're going to be the last horse out of the barn, you know? So, you know, I think it's up to us to kind of, you know, think about that. There's not going to be some magical policy that gets floated our way. It's going to be something that we have to work on.
What do you guys?
What is your ideal scenario for being able to put on, if the city basically left it up to you to put on a safe event? Would that include, obviously it would probably include temperature checks and maybe some sort of a rapid test prior to entry, mask wearing?
No, we just go back to our roots. I mean, you see the early 90s rave hazmat suits. We just gotta get some. Yeah, we go get some fashion now, you know.
With Vicks vapor on them.
It'll be fine, you know. But no, I mean, look, we get the news from the same sources as everybody else. I mean, I think we're going to know when we can see the other side of this storm, and I think we're going to know when we can start to calculate gatherings and immunities and things like that. And you know, there's, you know, we don't have access to anything that you guys don't. You know, it's a common sense issue at this point. We're not trying to be the first ones out. We're not going to do anything unsafe. You know, we're just gonna, you know, hang in there and do what we can and wait out the rest.
That would be my next question. Is like, is it illegal right now to do parties in Michigan?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So what do you think about other states that open up? And if your state would be open up, would you do the festival, for example?
I think our state will not open up until it is safe to do so. So yes, if our state opens up, would we?
So do you? Sorry, so do you generally think that democratic states are more safe than Republican states in that case?
if I actually answered that truthfully, you probably wouldn't believe me. But I honestly don't. I don't think about that at all. I mean, like we're just looking at numbers. We're looking at our hospital systems and the reason people are scared of events that could potentially be spreads, and they're opening up slowly here and there. I mean, they'll start at 25, then they'll go to 50.
But so you're not jealously looking over to Florida, for example, where you could be doing a big festival right now?
I wouldn't say jealously, because we don't know what the other side of that looks like. In fact, we don't know what this side of it looks like. Chuck and I were looking at some promotions for Miami in the month of February, and I just kept waiting to read like the parentheses part that says, by the way, only 4 people are allowed, but I mean, these appear to be kind of like regular promos. So I don't know. I mean, I feel like that's, kind of a wait and see thing. I mean, it's really tough to say. I mean, Chuck and I discussed whether or not to go down and check it out in our hazmat suits, but we might.
Yeah.
Yeah, last week we had Lauren Flax from New York, and she was talking about how New York is looking, I guess it's looking up for doing like events outside, like park things and stuff like that. Is there anything similar? Maybe not big festival size, but like at least a similar thing in Michigan or Detroit, doing some like small outdoor parties, because you guys are doing stuff like a TV bar, right?
Yeah, there's definitely a good sensitivity to having an outdoor limited capacity event. Mm-hmm. And some of these events were open, last summer and last fall, 150 people, something simple. And I think that, these outdoor venues are going to get very creative, this year. I think you're going to see anything from drive-in to limited, capacity dance floors, to maybe, stages spread out. Like, I mean, they're probably going to, read all the fine print and get to a point where, this could be allowed, and there may be opportunities for us to do a couple things here and there. But I mean, all you guys know, that's not what we do. I mean, we'll do what we have to keep the music going and to keep as active as we can. But, we are, quite admittedly a very welcoming, large capacity sweating dance floor. I mean, we're literally about sharing, we're about gathering. And those two things are the farthest things away from being all wide open right now.
I wanted to ask you, Jason, like going back to the early 90s, I mean, the parties that you were doing, were they all night parties? Were they open-ended?
They would all usually end at sunrise, and then every now and then, rarely, they would go till noon. But what would traditionally happen is when the sun would come out, everybody would take a look around and be like, "Whoa, we need to go change."
But you were doing these parties in warehouses or were covered spaces. You weren't doing them outside in the woods or places like that.
No, they're all inside concrete, mostly abandoned spaces. And then when the morning would come, we would go back to 1217 and do chill out or house all day next day, something like that.
And do you think the city you'll ever get to do like 24-hour parties in Detroit? Would that be? Do you think there's ever going to be a possibility?
Well, we were doing. Yeah,
what now?
What's that?
Well, pre-COVID, you were doing them like
yeah. Like our last event was February 14th of 2020. That was our last event. It was a Detroit Love Party. We did. It was like. Like every Detroit, like Carl Craig and Derek played, and a few other people played, Delano and so on. And, we were taking those pretty late. We were taking those till like 9 a.m, because there is a 24-hour thing pre-COVID that you could do here, but, you had to have a permit for it and stuff like that. So that was happening. Like the club scene here was, techno here and electronic music here was thriving.
That's great.
Like we were doing it was going very well. And then all of a sudden it's just like the rug got pulled out from underneath us, basically here. So, what were you saying though, man?
I'm focused on.
I'm trying to keep up with you.
Just from my experience of coming to Detroit, I used to think everything shut at 2, and
Well, at a certain point, it did though. you know, it worked up to this because after a while we could do 4 a.m. Then we
Okay.
could go and do 24 hours if you wanted to, you know.
It always depended on the spaces, though, too,
Yeah,
right?
well, Marble Bar was pushing it till like 9 in the morning. You know, they would start at 9 and go till, you know,
Yeah.
And the works always let us go till 6 or 7 a.m.
and the Works was doing stuff like that too, although it's gone now, so it is what it is.
Unfortunately.
Yep.
I don't recall the exact lineups and how they evolved, but was hip hop always part of the festival? When did it make an appearance, and especially on the main page, in stage? I remember one year there was Public Enemy, another year Snoop was doing what, Snoopadelic, or
Yeah,
what's
we
his?
don't talking about that one though.
And who was the driving force of you guys doing that?
Well,
It's
Yeah,
always been there.
there was always a hip hop element.
And look, I mean, hip hop was a huge influence on. I mean,
Yeah.
all.
I mean, at every festival there was pretty much since 2000, you know, hip hop something, you know. So you know, the festival is kind of like a formula, you know, and you have to like try to get the best of every little niche or genre or like music, and you know, anything, you know. We don't really do a lot of drum and bass, but I mean, we had Goldie and LTJ Bookham. They were going to back to back for the first time ever in like 2020.
Yeah.
I was so looking forward to that. I did so much work to get that
That
done.
was going to be last year, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. They're still game. As long as they can come here and do it, you know, they're still game. So like we're working, you know, but like whenever we can do that, you know. So
There's always the offbeat
interesting
performer
pairing.
like Square Pusher or something like that I'd play.
yeah, well, we did everything from ambient to like jungle to you know, like IDM and you know, just like all types of stuff, you know.
Kraftwerk.
Yeah, we had Kraftwerk to, you know, Gucci Mane, you know, and you know.
Hey, Chris, I'm doing this in your honor here.
Thank you, man.
I want to hear some.
By the way,
background
Jason,
stories.
are you in your basement, Jason?
Yeah, this is a Paxhau Hotel 2.0.
You remember you showed me, but it didn't look that fancy with the drawing in the wall. It just
Yeah, I did that for you.
Yo, the sign is real simple, B. It says rap it.
You guys,
I sometimes love you, Jason.
You love me enough to recognize your shirt you gave me.
Oh my Jesus! Fuck!
Yeah, what a loser! It's been like an hour and a half.
No, I'm such a loser. No, wait, your jacket was over it. I couldn't see
No,
it.
no,
No.
it's always
You didn't
been
have
there.
it.
It's
You
been
did
that all
not
the time.
wear the shirt this way.
Everybody else knows it's always been.
Oh, shut up. We can check it. We actually videotaped the show.
You should. You should
Yeah.
check it. I started it like this.
No, I will definitely rewind and have a look at that.
Hey, do you remember what
That-
these were? You remember what
man.
these were
Yep.
when they were ceramic?
Yeah.
guys, not Jason, not you and Chuck, but the others. What are your favorite movement memories that really stand out over the years? Mo,
Jeff
you're always
Mills.
talking about movement being like a yearly ritual for you ever since.
I never missed a single year ever since the very
Yeah.
first one. I've been to every single one. It was the first time I actually traveled out of the state of California by myself. I was
Nice.
18, so I was for the first time legal to travel on my own without, a parental guardian. I bought my ticket and flew out to Detroit and was in culture shock because I didn't know if I should be scared shitless or be incredibly inspired by my surrounding. But regardless, I had the time of my life, and it's something that I've never stopped doing since.
Yeah, is there a standout
Favorites?
memory?
For me,
Like something? Yeah, for you.
I will say that the most
Got a good
standout
story
memories,
for us?
the most standout memories for me were definitely in the earlier years, not because they're any better than more recent memories, but because it's more impressionable when you're younger. But for instance, the Yell parties were definitely both of them. The one with Yell 1 and 2 with collabs and with Joachim, and Richie Houghton threw a control party at what was it? The hotel
City Club.
City
at
Club.
City Club. And I remember there was a line going around the building at 8:00 in the morning, and nobody could get in. And I actually snuck into the party through a window I climbed up through a window, and I remember, I don't know what the fuck happened, but Rich had fireworks inside of this venue.
Oh
These
yeah.
huge Chinese spinning fireworks that went off, and I had never seen anything like that before, never experienced anything like that on the West Coast in LA. And I think it was informative and influential to all the events that I had done by the time I had gone back to LA.
You should have seen that view from the stage next to the fire extinguisher spraying at the ceiling because the ceiling was actually on fire.
Oh my god.
That was a big
Yeah.
Oh my
But the
God.
sound system at that party was incredible, and it was certainly an experience to remember for sure.
that was the old God sound system we used to call it. It was
Yeah.
Sherwin Vega, what were they called? Earthquakes.
Earthquakes.
Those are the ones we used to crawl into in the back of the raves and like lay inside of those things.
Yeah, the old Tonka style.
Yeah.
What about you?
Huh?
Movement memory.
For me, I mean, I think it's just one of the best and easiest festivals to walk around. So you can, I mean, you know, if you haven't been there, I mean, it's a joy. It's just easy. So I mean, everyone from like Moody Man. I think it's the first place I heard Zach play, DVS One. You know, but Metro Area also live, Moody Man live in the afternoon. Just sitting around in the daytime in the afternoon and watching all these guys or listening to them is amazing. And then, yeah, of course, all the after parties, which are completely crazy. And I think me and Chris have done some pretty crazy after parties. So,
I just remembered.
yeah,
I still have pictures of that.
Yeah, going to an after party, then going for breakfast and stuff.
What was this diner we went to, like down the road? What is that? 24 hours diners, guys? No?
Where?
In Detroit.
Coney Island?
Hard Plaza,
Hot
you
dog?
just leave, and it's just like 24 hours, and it's really super original. And we were somehow ending up there.
This is probably Coney's, right?
Coney Islands.
I don't remember.
I don't either.
There's a
I
lot
don't
of
either.
Like a couple, you know, the click,
Random.
maybe the click.
Or it could have been the Greektown one.
Vodka.
Man, it's
Yeah, it could be.
it's so much. It's so many memories that this festival has
Absolutely.
provided me with. It's incredible. And when I see this now, looking back, that I think that was 2000 when I came first time. I now realize that was kind of the beginning of what you guys did. When I came, I actually felt like you guys been doing this forever already. You were like in the first moment when I walked into this Paxhau hotel, which I didn't know it was the hotel, and everybody was just sitting on the couch. It was just such a different idea of living for me, because you come from Europe. You don't really, just that's somehow an American thing, like a lot of nice people just hanging out in a house. There's a big television is running, everybody is smoking a joint, and then you realize later on in the basement there's like not only the hotel, there's the hotel is the bed in the corner, but there's this radio station, and they're actually doing this thing called streaming on the internet, and it's also incredible to meet these extremely nice people who are so extremely capable of doing these events and festivals and creating spaces for so many great people to get together and have a good time, and you meet so many people. So every time I get to go to Detroit, I always feel like, first of all, you go to a place where like techno is also born, it has a big part of our history. And you never really, as a European, you just go there and just like, wow, this is like so different than what you could ever imagine somehow. And I'm amazed by that city somehow. And that these guys are just always creating these spaces where the world is basically meeting. But you have to tell us when you actually started the movement and who you took it over with, like how that development was. I'm really interested to hear that a little bit more. And you create these incredible things in this space where the history is behind it, and you meet every year amazing people. It's just like one of a kind, and it's just this is
Certainly.
a fucking techno festival. Like that is really proper. So honestly, guys, you've always done everything right. And I'm not
Yeah.
saying that because you're wearing my CLR shirt.
No, I just feel weird now because you just ruined my. I was just about to say all the same things about you, and now I don't know what to say.
Oh, you're wearing my shirt, man. It's just like all that matters.
You ruined my whole closing statement.
You
I,
too.
We're not in the closing statement. We're in the
I'll
middle
say
of the
just
show here.
just to add, you know, in the U.S., outside of, you know, big major cities like New York or L.A., I would say that every state has some sort of small techno scene. You know, whether it's like Portland or Seattle or Dallas or whatever it is.
Oh, Iowa.
Iowa, you know, Kansas City.
We
There's
played
always
Collapse at Iowa.
Yeah. I mean, I've played some good ones in Iowa too. So it's so interesting because all of those small groups are connected to every state somehow. It's like almost everybody knows everybody, but we don't see each other. Maybe people just communicate online or something like that. But a lot of like smaller DJs will travel in between all these cities and play. And it always seems that when movement comes, it's truly a family reunion because all of those small communities from each one of those states all travel to Detroit. And it's the one weekend of the entire year where we all get to party together and like see each other face to face. And that's incredibly special and true for the entire US techno scene. And that's why I've always felt Detroit, the Movement Festival Memorial Day weekend was incredibly important.
Yeah,
But it's not only the US techno scene, Mo. It's not only the US techno scene.
Yeah, sir. I mean, it's grown without a doubt. Europeans traveling over all the time as well, but you know.
Yeah, but that's what I was gonna say the same thing. It's like for as far as the like people based in the U.S., artists and whoever, people that just live in the U.S. that go to Detroit, it's like something that everyone really looks forward to like all year. Like as soon as Movement announces the lineups or tickets are for sale, it's like people are already on Facebook and you know everywhere online saying like, all right, getting our tickets, booking our hotels now.
Yeah.
People book their hotels as soon as Movement is over. They're booking it for the year after.
Yeah.
So it's like
it's that sense of community
yeah.
that's missing from other festivals. That's certainly a part of the Detroit Festival.
Guys, you see, we really want to be booked for the next one.
I don't give a shit if you book me. I'll be there anyways.
I was waiting. I knew Risk was just lurking in there, waiting for the next comment. I knew it was coming.
Mo was supposed to play 2020, right?
I was, dude. I was super bummed to not be playing this year. I mean, it was heartbreaking. Any opportunity to play the festival is an honor and a pleasure for me. So,
Guys, I have a lot of great memories. Just one that comes to mind is the same year that I was doing my live show on the main stage. Kraftwerk was also doing their show on the main stage on one of the other nights. Was that the first time? I mean, being that Kraftwerk was such a huge source of inspiration for all the Detroit artists. Having Kraftwerk at Movement on the main stage, was that the first time that had happened? And
yes,
how did that? Was that difficult to organize?
That was one of the easiest bookings.
And was it true that the Detroit guys were standing behind the stage crying while the Kraftwerk was playing?
I don't know if they were back there crying.
But like, who was back? Let's start with who was backstage or to the side of the stage.
No one.
From the the dance music community of Detroit, old and new. Who was there? Was it like? Was there a photo that commemorated the gathering, or what was that like?
I mean, what a moment, huh?
Yeah.
To tell you the truth, the whole stage was cleared. So there was because our stage is small. It's not like, so there's wings, but no one was on stage. Who was
the wing? Yeah.
But whoever was under the stage, like behind it, I have no idea. I was in the main booth watching the show. And actually, I booked Kraftwerk previous to Movement for Moogfest in 2014. So,
okay.
So we had a good relationship with them, and they wanted to play Movement, and they hit us up, and they wanted to play. And it was sweet. It was, like Jason said, the easiest.
What does that say about your festival? It's crazy.
That says everything. I mean, in my opinion.
I mean, that works epic.
That would bring up an interesting question. Are there any artists that are totally out of the blue that hit you up to play? Like you'd be like, we would never book them.
That again?
Like,
They're
are
not going
there
to name names, David.
Oh, I mean, you could say, I don't know, maybe
No,
someone.
Live and plan.
No, we get a lot of inbound, and sometimes, without saying any names, we'll get an inbound from someone that, we know might, we might catch a little flack for. But if they're so friendly, so professional, and so like right on the edge of like, this would be really special to me as an artist to be a part of this. And we go over a couple of, I hate to say ground rules, like watch the microphone, watch the vocal, watch this, and we have a few that we book like that, and we do get flack. And it's unfortunate because we would have never booked this artist if we didn't go through this process and we didn't trust the booking. And we'll get, some flack on social media or lead up, and then the show will kill it. It'll be a huge crowd. He or she will completely do something that is really special and just for Detroit. So I feel like, for the most part, our audience trusts our booking processes, but I feel like they should really understand that we're just different versions of them at a different time. Like they should trust it because, we are really particular. And if there's something that looks like it's, a little out of lane or different, we're doing it, for the artist and for Detroit and for the audience. I mean, I'm thinking of like 4 or 5 now that, looking back at some of our lineups, you'd be like, what? But if you were at the performance, you would know it was a Detroit performance. And those are really special shows.
That's
What were
why
you most sorry, go ahead.
I just was gonna say, like, I should have been a little bit more specific, but like any like pop acts that were like, hey, we want to do this to be cool.
I mean, I get hit up all the time of random crazy shit that we would never book.
Yeah.
And it's just like just like stuff from the America's Got Talent. They're like, he's into electronic music or she's into this, and you should book them. And it's like, I don't even know what the fuck you're talking about.
So it's like Hollywood people trying to look for placement.
It's just people, I think that they just know that it's a festival and they just super random weirdo shit.
Yeah.
And what's the most controversial booking you've ever had?
Well, we've had a couple. Like we had Benny Benassi back in the day. That Benny's sweet dude,
Yeah,
but
super friend of mine.
He was getting into like EDM and stuff like that, and it was a little bit risque for us to book, but we knew at that time that it would bring out more people that would not come to movement. This was 2007 or 8, and some people were really pissed about it, and then he blew it out. It was sweet. He rocked it, killed it, and people. It was perfect,
Are you surprised when people get upset about those things, or is it pretty understandable for you?
Like, how do you to add to Mo, how do you navigate that mindstorm of criticism?
Well, it's
do you
now
care or no?
Well, now it's a little bit tougher because back then the internet wasn't so crazy, and then now
the internet's crazy today.
Well, I mean, we had.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, come on, man. And we had we had a booking just like 3 years ago, Diplo. We booked him, and people freaked out. It was insane. Like it was the worst. It was like the worst thing I could have ever done, and everybody was
cool. Diplo's cool.
And like we've booked West before. We've had Major Lazer. We've done a couple things, and all of a sudden this one year, someone just was like Diplo, and that was it. It like totally was a buzzkill and we weren't going to cancel him, and we stood behind the booking, and then he came and he killed it. His stage was the most full out of the entire weekend was for Diplo. So like the people on the internet were pissed and shitty, but then at the festival, everyone migrated to watch him play, and he played great because he's a great DJ. You know what I mean? So
it's probably the 1%.
What's the moral to the story
that didn't show up?
What's that?
Moral to the story is Chuck's not drinking enough.
I don't know, man. This cult pretty strong, dude.
Is that the same cup from the beginning, Charles?
man, I've been going.
Okay.
Oh,
All
that's
right.
not bad.
Okay.
Do today, man, and all of a sudden I'm not going to be doing it. I feel like.
Yeah. After I saw how long these segments were, I literally had to just shut everything down. I got up early today, guys, just to get all my shit done because I knew nothing was going to happen after this. So
Cheers to that.
Yeah, it's yeah. What is that, Chris?
You got there,
What
That's
Chris.
something you see every day. A horse playing an accordion.
Yo, the sign is real simple.
Actually, I was
called-
going to ask you guys, how was it booking Wu-Tang? Was that pretty easy or pretty
That was actually easy too because our buddy
Oh,
is our agent.
Pommes and
Ah,
disco.
nice.
So it was like super simple.
I was like, I've always been a massive Wu-Tang fan. I remember I was playing one of the after parties, and I was with Johnny White from art department, and he's like, "Yo," like in the middle of my set, he's like, "Yo, do you have a microphone?" I'm like, "Microphone? Why? You want to get on a microphone?" He's like, "Dude, turn around." And I turn around. It was like RZA and some of the other members of Wu-Tang, and they were in the DJ booth. And RZA had like a bottle of tequila that they were passing around. And Maddie's their agent, who we all know, and they looked like they were out to have a good time, and they wanted to get on the microphone and do some rhymes over what I was playing. That's another.
Wasn't that our party, our after party, and Nicole Mudamar
It was the Nicole.
Masonic. Yeah, that was at the Masonic. That was our party.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
it was after the festival, and I couldn't believe that was happening as it was happening, and I was just like,
it was like super intense because I was actually having a drink with Joseph Capriati. We were having some Hennessy together. That's kind of the thing we do, and anyways, I start getting phone calls being like, "Yo, you need to come down here because Wu-Tang is taking over the fucking stage." Like, what? And nobody would do anything about it. And then like, and people were saying Emma was getting mad, because Nicole's about to go on. And I'm like, holy shit, so I run downstairs and I grab one or two of our security guys. And I'm like, all right, get ready. We're going to clear the stage. So we go up there, after a full weekend of work nonstop, because, like Jason was saying, we have like 5-6 parties a night on top of the festival. And, I go to them all. So, we cleared out the whole stage.
5 or 6.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. And we clear out the stage. And then like Wu-Tang, you were playing, I think, and Nicole went on, and they were all over the place. They wanted to be on the microphone very heavily. I remember that. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it was, for me, I didn't care because I was such a fan. Like, I think they were on the mic for most of my set, and then on to like maybe the first half hour, 45 minutes of Nicole's.
Yeah, it got weird. It got really weird. I remember it getting really weird.
I mean, I think she might have gotten a little weird because they've been there for a while, but I think with Ali, it was kind of like he said, it was like once in a lifetime.
Well, I used to be a hip hop DJ.
You can't write this shit, right?
No, it's sweet. I mean, no, sweet.
And another question I had is like one of the most memorable sets for me was the Wizard set at the main stage years back. Was that something like Mills was kind of, did he like want to do it, or did you have to like really convince him to do something?
No, that's what he wanted to do. Whenever we were lucky enough to have Jeff play for us, he kind of picks what he wants to do.
Okay.
We always want him to play techno. We always want him to DJ. But the Wizard sets are, such a big, deal. So it was great. I mean, he rocked it out.
Yeah, I love that one, man.
It was
like I guess the last, was it the last time that he was going to do that, or is that just a all talk thing?
I don't know. It could have been.
I feel like Jeff kind of does what he wants when he wants.
Yeah, he does kind of what he wants when he wants kind of guy, and definitely doesn't want to play techno in Detroit, I don't think. So I don't know. We had him and Tony Allen, they played Marble Bar. and for such a small place, for such a big show, you know, it was only 350 people, and it was amazing, you know. And he did that no problem, you know. He was super pumped to do that, but to DJ is like, I don't know what I got.
He did the underground stage.
He
about
did
4 or
And
5 years ago.
I don't
He
know.
banged it out that night.
Yeah, he played for 3 hours down there. I just don't know if he liked it down there. You know what I mean? I don't think he liked it down there.
I liked it.
Like it down there in Mexico.
Yeah, Modelo.
Actually, you know what? Speaking of the underground stage, do you guys get a lot of complaints about that stage from artists? Because I feel like it's like
We used
50-50. Like, huh? You used to?
Well, every year it's a different kind of. Every year it used to be a different kind of setup.
Setup, yeah.
And then the first time we ever did it down,
that stage is weird. Like, you know, first, you know, you should know that's the first stage that we did when we produced the stage for Kevin. That was the stage that we wanted, and that's the stage that he didn't. So it was a win-win in 05, because that's the only stage you can kind of mimic warehousing. But you know,
the sound in there is unbelievable.
Well, when you book an artist down there, you get, you know, on one side of the personality spectrum, you get someone who thinks you're giving them kind of like the low, you know, mark on the totem pole, and then on the other side, you get people that are asking to play down there. So I think it's really what mood the artist is in, and how dialed in we have the setup. It took many years to dial that room in. In fact, one year we changed it to a photo exhibit because we had such a hard time figuring out the room sonically and accommodation wise, like how many people we could fit safely. One year it got so stressful that we turned into a gallery. And then once we got a lot of emails about missing it, we brought it back and we were like, okay, guys, and I'm talking about like the sound guys specifically, you know, then the, you know, security, you know, then the lighting, then everything else, but the sound guys really first. And we're like, look, we cannot, you know, screw around here. This is a special space. We got to make it right. And we have in storage every year, I mean, just hundreds of pieces of sound baffling that is all made and mapped to go into that ceiling. And then we have a lot of, you know, secondary and backup sound to make it work. But it still is only, you know, it's a smaller capacity than the other stages.
Yeah.
I can't even count how many years I've never left the underground stage.
I was going to say
the whole weekend.
I know people that go to Movement just to hang out at the underground stage all weekend. Like, they never leave.
Down there.
Like, they just want to be in that like cave, you know, and where it's dark and no sun.
But then again, the lineups are also catered to specifically to our taste too. So I mean, it's like when you look at the lineup, and I could pick out all the names out of the people I want to see. They're all playing the underground stage.
It's funny when we bring like an up and comer or something that's a little bit more obscure techno, and it rains.
And it gets packed.
It becomes a game changer for their whole like media exposure. You know what I mean? It goes from like a couple hundred people to just gangbusters. You know, it's
their lives.
Guys, I guess the question on everyone's minds, and I've asked you this over the years, Jason, is why haven't you taken Movement Festival to other places around the world?
You know, speaking in your language, it's kind of the same reason that, you know, some chefs only have one restaurant. You know, it's the best way to put it. You know, I love the idea. I love the fantasy of having incredible partnerships across the world. You know, we've got a great, you know, partnership in Puerto Rico that worked for a couple years. We've got a great relative in Torino that very inspired by Detroit, does an event every single year. You know, we do a lot of pre-parties and a lot of stuff with partners across the country, but doing what we do in Detroit is really hard to imagine duplicating. And it takes us all year to work on it. And, you know.
What about around the U.S.?
You know, our biggest audience is outside of Detroit is California, you know. Yeah. So, you know, if we start to, you know, look at other venues aggressively, we know we're cannibalizing from the experience. Yeah. So, and Movement, as most of you may know, has never been a sellout festival. You've never seen that sold out stamp.
I mean, our audience is still, for whatever reason, like really largely walk up, and even when we do sell out, it's at like 10 p.m. on the Saturday, it's so, until we get to a point where we're selling out, 2-3 weeks or more ahead of time, I just, I don't feel like we've got the density to just, sort of, throw it around other places. And, we do, 50 shows a year, in Detroit. So, trying to produce something annually somewhere else, knowing that we can't be there, it just seems like it's not the same thing. And I feel like we should know if it's the same thing, or we should really feel it. And what we've done is kind of trust our instincts, and we've kind of stayed our course, and we're just kind of doing our thing,
But certainly there's always been the Paxhau pre-parties, or the movement pre-parties that happened in various cities around the States too.
Yeah, that's right.
I think it.
Oh, here we go.
What? No, we got stuck in the beginning when we talked about like how your decision making to not do the festival was last year with the virus. And I think you never really answered that one, first of all. And second of all, what's your what do you feel like when is the next movement festival?
Well, the second part of your question we already discussed in detail.
What? Today?
Yes.
Here on the show?
Yes.
Was I not here?
You appeared to be there. You were sucking on your lollipop. But to go back to the first part of your question, I don't actually remember the exact dates. I'm sure we can look back and see when our communications were, but I can remember, the first wave was sort of like, okay, this could be something that affects us. And, it's funny that, when this thing first laid on top of us, there was a lot of communication going on back and forth with promoters that don't always talk to each other.
Yeah.
And just saying like, what you're hearing, what are you thinking? And there was a really short 2-week period there that I feel like everyone was kind of in this same bubble. And, I feel weird saying I kind of missed it because it was such a scary, crazy time. But, at a time of crisis, a time of fire, like everybody was just like picked up the phone and was like, okay, what are you doing? Here's what we're doing. Here's the language we're using. Here's what we're thinking. And at that time, because the news was coming in, so quickly, but we still didn't know anything, everybody kept looking at those dates. If you remember in the beginning, it was like, okay, we're doing lockdown for a week. Okay, we're doing a lockdown for 30 days. A lot of promoters were like, okay, well, 30 days, that's good because we're 35 days out. So, we should be good, and because none of us have ever lived through anything like this before, I think there was a lot of naivete about what this thing is and how these things work. And so it took everybody a little while before we just had to accept it. It was a really scary, scary decision, but we knew it was the only decision. And we were and continue to be really honest with our our email list and our ticket holders. So, I don't remember exactly when it was, but I remember it was to us very common sense that May was not going to happen. I mean, there was sirens outside. You know what I mean? Like people were literally told to stay in their homes. I'm like, I don't know, man. This doesn't, And then now looking back, I'm sure there's some cultures we could have taken some, advisement from. But the world was very disconnected before compared to the way it is.
And this year, is it looking like? I mean, I guess it's impossible to tell, but like.
Yeah, the second part of the question. Did you really talk about that?
Oh, the part that we went back to. Yeah, I'll just to reiterate for Chris.
I can rewind the show and look at it later.
We'll get back there. I know you will, buddy. I know you know how that button works. What we referenced before is that we're all getting news from the same source. We're all operating in a common sense.
Say that, Chris.
I remember that sentence.
Yeah, we are looking at this every single day. Obviously the news is changing every single day.
Okay, I framed my question. Maybe my question was framed in the wrong way. Like, are we looking at May 2022 for the next Detroit Movement Festival, or are you willing to do the festival at a different date whenever it's possible, even if it's in November?
Just give me a second. Give me a second. I got to go grab my crystal ball. Hold on. I forgot it earlier. So I don't know. I mean, sometimes, sometimes I ask people like a personal question, like if someone's trying to corner me and ask me 3 or 4 times a question,
I'm cornering you.
To, I'll say something like, if you look at this thing, just kind of, like math, like geometry or fractal pattern, you see, how fast does the virus spread? Do you think the vaccine is going to spread faster? Or do you think the vaccine or the immunity is going to spread slower? And that's about the most guesswork we can do. And other than that,
but don't you consider to do an event in November this year, for example?
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, yeah, no. Chuck
or the festival even. The actual festival.
Chuck is consistently booking 3 festivals at a time for one event.
Yeah, I've already booked Movement so many times. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's a very. I mean, I gotta tell you, we thought we had challenges before this, as far as being a promoter is concerned, and I'm sure as an artist, it's also very, very difficult. But yeah, if I could put it into plain language, we are always booking 3 dates at a time, and then we're just waiting, to see which one we'll be able to actively execute. And if something becomes unrealistic, we have, an immediate secondary, and then if that becomes unrealistic, and we're just like every other major promoter in the world, we're just kind of playing leapfrog right now with dates.
Do you think we'll see a business techno stage at Movement at some point in the near future?
Maybe.
It's a really small one. It's been there the whole time, actually. It's
there. Okay, yeah.
It's only about 4 feet
never
wide.
It.
Yeah, okay. 1 seat, 4 feet wide. We all take turns.
Chris, remember giving me?
I was just wondering.
Which one is it?
3rd anniversary.
I know which one, which year. I can't read that. 3rd.
It says November.
It's the 3rd anniversary.
Hey, Chris.
Probably 2010, right?
Hey, Chris, I always want to know, what does this say?
2002. Yeah, it's the same shit. That's what this says right here.
What does that say?
That means Friday, right? Something.
Friday, isn't it?
Friday.
Yeah, I'm such a simple guy, dude.
What does it say, Chris? What does it mean?
It says it's Friday night.
Ah.
It's pretty simple and straightforward.
I thought this was some deep spiritual shit all these years. I've worn this shirt so many times, it's really shrunk.
It's Friday night.
It's shrunk.
I'm sure the shirt's shrunk.
I think the shirt shrunk, right?
Shrunk so much.
No.
I know it fit me much better, I'm sure.
The washing machine, the washing machine shrunk it.
The 3rd one you're having there, Chuck, is that the one with Justin Timberlake or what?
No, it's the one with Eminem in it, I think, isn't it?
Oh, it's the Eminem one, yeah. Right? Ali, you did an Eminem with the mix as well, right? Isn't that the first time we ever talked, actually, Ali? When we spoke about like, oh, you also did that that Eminem remix.
But you said no Eminem remix or the bootleg?
Just sampled it.
Yeah,
bootleg.
Yeah, we did it with Teneglia and Danny Howells, and it was called Size Triple D. This Futuram and Teneglia.
No one listens to techno. Let's go.
Yeah, it was pretty. It still sounds pretty cool. We sampled it. Everybody listens to techno. Yeah.
Did Chris sign your record, Chuck? No.
No, I didn't want him to fuck it up.
A nice clean copy.
Yeah, I wanted a clean
copy. Always ruining the records when you sign them, man.
Was that pre create, learn, realize, or post?
Oh, this is pre.
This is pre. This is early days, dude.
This is embroidery straight up.
So CLR are just Chris Liebing records, right?
Yeah.
It used to be.
Yeah.
Now it's going to be new. It's going to be.
Is it still going to be?
It up.
It's still going to be.
Create, learn, repeat.
Repeat.
Repeat. That's the 3rd stage. Create, learn, repeat.
Oh, when's that coming?
And I actually got the first 3 releases ready.
Damn, already.
Oh. Yay.
All by you? Are they
At least it's not the calcium lime removal product.
Calcium lime rust.
What?
calcium lime and rust remover. There's a product called CLR that they sell at all the stores. It's called calcium lime remover.
DLR.
That's Rev 4.
Ali, help me. Why are you wearing some sunglasses by now?
Because I'm hungover. I should have worn them like from the beginning of the show. Because as soon as I put them on, I felt instantly better.
Yeah, he's just getting emotional because I brought up the restaurant scene. You gotta
do a DJs and sunglasses episode.
Yeah.
DJs in restaurants.
And DJs in restaurants, yeah. Well,
Chris, what brewery is that?
What else are you drinking now, Chris?
It's called Tanzkletter, which means slippery dance.
Is that from?
You just make that up, man.
Germany, Chris?
What?
Did you bring these in the car from Germany?
Yeah, I brought these from Germany. This is actually a brewery I believe even in Romrod. Romrod is like in the middle of the countryside in Hessen.
Where are you, Chris?
I'm in Brisson. I'm in Switzerland right now.
Oh shit! All right.
I decided to spend the winter here. It's mountains outside, and I'm.
Speaking of winter, what's it like in Detroit right now? Is it pretty chill or pretty bad?
It's about the snow, I guess.
It's honestly been the mildest winter on record. It's shitty, but it's not that shitty.
The East Coast got hit pretty hard with some snow, I think, recently, right? But that didn't affect you guys at all? No.
I think it's going to come through. They said it's supposed to start at 4 p.m. today.
Yeah, it's still February. We haven't seen shit.
The winter vortex is on its way, man.
There was a couple years there where we had 2 feet of snow and negative 10 degrees, and that's not this year.
Got destroyed last weekend, dude.
So
Chicago was like,
yeah, Chicago got dumped on.
How, if I may ask, how has the lockdown? Jason, you crack me up. How has the lockdown been on you personally? Are you in this basement in this basement all the time?
Is that a question for Chuck?
Chuck has probably a really interesting room to be in for like 12 months. I'm just wondering how is it? Is it just been a crazy time as for us? We have this show once a week in order to keep us somewhat sane.
Yeah. What have you guys done to keep your sanity, throughout all this?
Do you guys meet? Do you hang out in the warehouse that you have? You have that amazing warehouse.
If I could finish part 1.26 of your question, and then I'll get to point 178. So, first of all, we do have a little rotation. We've got our office, which everybody is in a sort of quarantine bubble. Like over time, everybody's kind of established who their circle is and what the protocols are. We shot how many artists in there for Paxhau TV, Chuck?
There's over 120.
But how many artists did we shoot in the warehouse?
Probably about 80 to 90.
So 80, 90, total safety protocol. I mean, it kept everybody very busy, and we were all very safe. We've got
artists.
Huh?
Well, Detroit DJs.
Yeah. Anyway, quick question. Yeah. So yeah, we got our studio, the office, and the house, and that's kind of the little Bermuda Triangle that I've been living in. And I've been fortunate enough to establish a companion since I think March. Lord Burns, who wandered in from the backyard from the neighborhood, and yeah, I'll show you a picture. Yeah. So he's been my best friend through COVID and kind of keeping me sane.
A cat or a dog?
Cat. Can't have a dog named Lord. Come on. Here we go. and then Chuck, I'm sure the same thing. Yeah, we just have a little rotation, our little COVID bubbles, and
Chuck, what have you been up to through this whole pandemic?
Just
oh, sweet.
Very nice.
Yeah,
looks like my cat.
Yeah, he's a total hood cat. He just, he and I stared at each other for a couple of months, really. And then once you realize that wasn't screwing around, then we started doing photo shoots together. That's us. New Year's photo, like looking out into the better future. And, yeah, he's been great.
Great photo.
did I walk into?
Yeah, Chuck. So what have you been up to?
I've been busy. Like we were really busy with the streams. Like Jason said, I booked like 120 plus streams. In 4 or 5 months. So that's like kind of a lot of shit. You know. And then beyond that, there isn't really much to do. So just been working on music, being at home.
How often are you guys doing the streams?
Well,
All the time.
we were
5 hours a week, and then movement selects once a month, which is 2 full days.
I feel like I'm getting like alerts from Twitch like all the time. Paxhau's live. Paxhau's live.
Well, we do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, but after February, we're going to chill out on that so we can actually concentrate on.
We're trying to attract some real talent. If you guys know anybody, that would be great.
I'm sure people in the comments will.
The 5 of you can kind of figure out some suggestions for us. That'd be great.
Could you guys
Definitely some young talent around somewhere.
Are you able to say what the location of that warehouse space you're using to film these?
Well, it's the XHQ. I mean,
no, he's talking about the warehouse. So, right? Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, the warehouse.
Yeah. So yeah, that is it's very close to where we are right now. I want to tell you the truth, but it just sounds so absurd. It's it sounds so absurd, but let's just say that it's one of the a great relationship in Detroit. It's an in and out sort of a thing. It's used for moving things in and out of the city and the country, and they let us kind of go in there and do our thing. We've got a promise that we're in and out in 5 hours, and and we've been able to do that. But yeah, I wish we could use it for a party, but it's
talking about the warehouse that we filmed the stream in, or are you talking about our warehouse?
No, you're talking about the warehouse.
Yeah, I was talking about the warehouse that I just saw Project 313 play in there. They did a live stream from.
Okay, Jason's right. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I have a random question.
The place is sweet. Go ahead.
I don't know if you guys even want to answer or not, or if I'm wrong for asking this question, but whatever happened to the whole Trezor thing opening in Detroit?
That's a good question, man.
That is probably not a question for us.
Okay. I didn't know.
I don't think we are authorized responders to that question.
Okay.
Obviously, classic brand, like fans of the brand. I think that there's a lot of early opportunity here to put your stamp on some ideas and things, but developing something here, there's a lot of challenges involved, and once you get into some of these things that people were working on, it was all sort of pre-pandemic, and pause was everything. I mean, all the banking stopped, all the lending, all the construction, all everything. So depending on what stage of development anybody was in, everything's kind of pushed back.
And and outside of COVID, I guess pre-COVID, it seemed like, I mean, from my experience going to Detroit 3 years, it seemed like Detroit was starting to come up again. It's the city, not necessarily just the scene, but does it still seem like it's going that way?
It can.
Well, the downtown area experienced a lot of development over the last 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And, the streets and neighborhoods saw some huge improvements as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably like anything else when you start at zero, 1 and 2 are pretty visible,
Mm-hmm.
but there's still, 3 through 10 that you get to. And I feel like we were right around there, like the downtown area and the density, was doing really well, and a lot of new real estate, a lot of new residents. And then we got, new streets, we got lighting, we got a lot of other stuff that was happening. And Detroit was really starting to attract a lot of new energy, new people. And that's just, like everything else, kind of just paused right now.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was wondering.
Guys, I'm curious, what constitutes like a successful event or a successful movement festival for you? Like, what metrics do you use? Like, when you do a post-mortem on an event or the night of the event, when you pat yourselves on the back or you get into arguments about what happened, like what for you, what's important? What are the things that come into play when you look at an event as successful or not successful? Is it?
I'd say that I mean, the first one, my gut one, is going to be safety. That's going to be the first thing that's evaluated, and does not get evaluated until 12:01 on Monday night. You never know the complete answer to that until it's actually over. And that thing that comes first, and then the second one's going to be sort of, did everything work? Did the programming work? Did the electricity work? Did all the structures that we put in place work? And then then you're going to get into relationships. Is everybody happy? Did everybody have a good show? Are all of our partners happy? Did everything do well? And then the last one's going to be counting everything up and make sure that we can pay all of our bills. And that sometimes takes up to 30 days, sometimes, to know if we can cover all of our costs, which if we can get through that whole spectrum of things there, then sometimes we have really good summers and sometimes we don't.
Oh, it rains, so you don't even want to be in the room.
Yeah, Nate, don't even hang out with us if it's raining, because we already know the answer to the one that's 30 days later. We already know the answer to that one,
Wow. Great. Well,
How often is it raining?
every year.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't rain every year.
Every year I've been, it's rained. I think
Every year it rains. I mean, it's rare when it doesn't. I mean, some of the storms are big, some of them are short, but it rains every year. If it doesn't rain, it's rare.
I remember there was a year that Mo and I were playing at the underground stage, like maybe 2013, 14, when it was raining around the same time we were playing, and just like the underground stage was rammed. It was amazing.
Yeah. Jason was talking about that earlier, about that happening to artists and blowing up their careers, and I didn't want to say that was me.
No, it happens. I mean, it really happens, and I think it's great. Obviously, we're looking at rain, which is the downside, but the upside is going to Italy.
Holy.
Wow.
how many is that,
Go to
Jason?
Italy, man.
I thought this was a beer show.
Is that like 4? I count 4?
This is number 5.
5. Wow.
Wow.
You're
I've been doing
really,
jumping jacks all day. I'm getting nervous.
It's these
you
shit.
guys are really celebrating the
Got the
DJs and Beers brand.
Eric's got the
guys.
OE.
I figure I'm not a DJ. The least I could do is drink some beers.
Right on.
Did you ever were you ever interested in DJing or making music at all, or?
I had a very short career as an ambient DJ in chill out rooms at early shows, and I have a very obsessive hobby in the studio to this day.
Oh, really? Do you release anything ever? Or?
Never. I barely even record,
Oh, wow.
but it's obsessive.
Is it more of a collector's thing?
No, because I don't just stare at it,
Okay. Like Mo. No, I was kidding.
That's all I do. I just like to buy shit to look at it.
That's all show that's back there. It's
Yeah.
it's turned on, but he doesn't do anything.
Never.
He does everything in
green screen.
Reactor.
Yeah. Programming in Max MSP.
Actually, I have a question about beer. Do you guys ever, like, with the festival, do you ever work with any local breweries with getting beers at the festival, or is it usually more the bigger
Yeah, the beer
commercial
garden.
companies?
No,
Oh, we
Finally, we get to the beer topic.
yeah, we've actually had a great group of partners over the years, and food and beverage is like, wow, I got a little bit of condensation on my mouse pad here. So it's been like, it's been okay. You know, we had to wrestle the first few years because beer was really for country festivals and rock festivals, and they were underwriting huge amounts of money. And then you'd get to techno, and everybody would be like, "What?" You know, and it was like, ah. So then we had to come up with the metrics to be like, no, techno people drink a lot. You know, and if you look at the end of it, it's really beer and vodka. You know, that's what everybody drinks. So we've had a great partnership over the years that has some large brands, but we also have Stella and some craft beers and a lot of other stuff that's kind of come through the pike. So I feel like, you know, we're definitely not, you know, the level of partnership that maybe a rock or country festival might get, but I feel like it's good. You know what I mean? We get, I don't know, I want to say we had like 20 different beers, you know, the last couple of years, something like that.
Yeah, because I remember that you guys had there was a beer garden at some point.
Mm-hmm. In the last few years.
Yeah.
I think the beer garden stays actually. You know, that area kind of developed into some different things, and you know, it's always kind of a little bit of a battle between vodka and the beer. They're about equal.
That was always my spot, was the chilling in the beer garden. If I wasn't in any in music areas, I was hanging in the beer garden.
Yeah, it's nice, right? Previously,
surprise.
That's why I love that venue. I mean, sometimes you just discover this giant unused space, and you're like, well, if we did something a little different here, maybe it would work.
Because it's like right along the water, right?
Yeah, you can chill out. You can stare at the water.
Yeah, that was dope.
Yeah, sounds like we got to do DJs and beers from the beer garden.
I think it's a great idea. I've always wanted to do more broadcasts.
So when do we do this, Jason?
I'm talking to Ali, Chris, in the middle of telling him when we were going to do this.
When? So
2022, maybe.
Oh, we'll do it. At the next movement, we should absolutely do a DJs and beers
live
broadcast.
But not like DJing. We're just talking to people. And
the same show.
Just at the beer garden, just talking to people.
No, it'll be your show. We've got the media area, you know, down next to the artist lounge. We can set you guys up, and then
if you can get me out of bed on movement weekend in time to do this shit, I'd be fucking surprised.
Well, maybe we'll do European hours only or something.
There you go.
We're not gonna do it like at 12.
Matt, what time is it there?
It's 12 noon. Well, what time we start over here in LA?
It's 2 p.m. in LA right now.
What is that?
At night.
What is that?
Yeah, in Berlin.
Yeah, it's like 11 p.m. in Berlin, right?
Yeah.
It's 11 in Switzerland too.
Yeah.
Yeah, any given day on Detroit weekend, I don't think I wake up until 6 p.m.
Wow.
I forget, is Detroit on the East Coast time, or is it mid? Are you guys 3 hours ahead from Pacific time? Yeah. Oh, okay.
Same time as the East Coast.
Yeah.
You have anything else to add to this show?
Is it my turn now? You guys?
Yeah. Do you have to say anything?
Yeah.
Say anything?
No, I just didn't want to interrupt. we haven't spent much time talking specifically about the influence that Chris and Ali have had over our group in Detroit. And we've had the opportunity to work with everybody here, which is obviously, as a promoter and a booking agent, you know, this is a different dynamic. I know that you guys like to stay, you know, stuck up in your DJ circles, but first, I really appreciate that you asked us to come on here. But second, there is some history there that we should focus on for a while, you know? So, you know, Ali and Chris, we've both been very active with since 2000.
Yeah.
And although Ali probably won't remember it, I do. We all met on the same trip, which was my first trip that Rich took me on in 2000 August. When I remember the intro. I'll save you the long story, but the bottom line was I literally had to be placed on the plane. It was like, you need to see this. You know, I was a very, very sort of homegrown guy. New York was about as far as I got, and getting over there was pretty incredible. When I got to, however you want to pronounce it, the island, I remember Chris was the only guy with weed on the island. And that's how I was introduced to him, because everybody was so tired of me ask it. They were just like, hold on a second, our friend Chris has you handled or something. And I'm like, okay, I'm not trying to be too American or anything. I'm just trying to and then Chris is also the person who very first shared the words after party with me. I remember it. So this guy who has weed and we fire up a joint. It's the first time I see CO2 cannons. And the very first time someone tells me after this, we go to the after party. And I was just like, this is incredible. Wow. And after all these things, and after I realized how, it's so amazing to meet this new European friend, then I hear his name after all that. And I'm like, oh shit. Well, now it's a whole different thing. I think, didn't we go for a boat ride that trip with DJ Hell? I remember was on the boat, and it was a great, we just drove around a rock or something like that.
It was very obscure. Surreal.
What year was this? Was this the Spin Club days? Was it
was Amnesia, Cocoon Amnesia.
No, that was before Spin Club. That was
Mega Night. Wasn't it called Mega Night?
It was Cocoon Night.
That was Wednesdays. Moro Picoto.
It was 2003. Yeah.
Cocoon Mondays.
And then it was Cocoon. Yeah.
Yeah,
good times.
And we were having a lunch on the beach. I remember that.
That was a lot of memories that trip. And I remember I got so destroyed. I didn't meet Ali till I was flying out, and Rich tried to introduce us on the plane, and I was just like, I don't know, man. That place just chewed me up and spit me out. I don't think it's good for introductions right now. He's like, no, it's Ali. Come on, it's the English guys. We play the records all the time. I'm like, it's so nice to meet you. I'm sorry.
Those flights out of Ibiza,
they're so hot. I mean, they're like 95-degree flights.
Yeah.
That reminds me of that reminds me of flights leaving Detroit after the weekend. Just especially flying back to LA, a lot of the same friends on the same flights, and
it's the worst.
Hoods up, sunglasses on.
Yeah,
you don't want to say hi to anybody.
Especially if you have any status on an airline and you get to board first, because then you sit down and then you have the walk of shame where everybody's walking down the aisle and they pass you, and you're just in the corner don't look at me.
I remember when I was playing Circo Loco every year, I would do movement and I would have to come off stage, rush to the car straight to the airport on a flight to Ibiza. That was brutal.
Yeah.
That was after hanging out the whole day.
Yeah, I can remember. I remember those bookings where you had to go straight from the party to fly all the way back here. That shit.
Monday nights at Circo Loco or Monday nights at Cocoon.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
That was a nice flight always.
Well, guys, it's been amazing to have you on. You guys are both looking great. Stay positive. We're all looking forward to the return of the festival and all your events.
Is there anything you guys want to plug that's coming up, I guess? What do you guys have? You stream?
I just miss hanging out with you guys. I mean, you guys have said some really, really kind things about Detroit, and some really kind things about, a project that we take really seriously. But, every one of you guys influences us and the project greatly. I mean, it's a really symbiotic relationship. I mean, we miss working together a lot, and it's almost like being, it is actually being disconnected from your source of energy. And, how long is your battery going to last is kind of like another true test of techno culture. And I guess, most of the people around us, but, thanks for the conversation, and we're excited to work together again too.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Cheers to that.
Yeah, everyone. Cheers.
Oh, I love cheers.
Cheers.
I finished my beer. Can I do a live stream for you guys?
Let's do a DJ Hours live stream.
You guys need to know we've been literally practicing for 6 months, getting it up to the point where we can ask you.
Yeah.
Can I?
Yeah, it's going to be special. Just give us a couple more weeks.
That sounds like a no.
No, it's definitely not a no. I mean,
I see it the same way.
Look, look, Chris, I got your booth.
Talk to us again.
It feels like we'll call you.
Booth all set up here. Look.
Wow, that's amazing.
We got new artwork. We got safety on the speakers, and then we got your stuff.
Hey, got a function one monitor?
Yeah, just the bare essentials.
No.
That is his basement. He's got a club in there.
It's a micro nightclub. It's called the Mystery Spot.
Chris, why don't you do a stream like an outdoor stream from like the beautiful
Oh, I'm gonna do that.
area that you're in? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. I'm already kind of like planning that from
Good.
up there somewhere. I'm right next to the Mont Blanc, the highest mountain of Europe.
Yes.
Yes, of course.
What?
Chris just likes to be high. So he's next to the highest mountain. He smokes weed.
We'll do a live stream from East LA and have like the people behind us making tacos and
Hell yeah.
selling tamales,
that'd be
man.
amazing.
Tamales.
We'll have a taco man right next to us, dude.
Half a bottle of sake. Thanks a lot, guys. All right. Well,
guys, thanks again.
thank you, guys. Next week, everyone, we have DJ Pierre, another legend. Looking forward to that one.
Huge man.
All right, roommate Ali. Good to see you, buddy.
All right, guys.
You too, roommate. Chuck,
see you.
always good to see you.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. Cheers.
It's amazing.
You guys.
Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you for coming on.
Bird.